new Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, Saturdays at 9 on BBC America.
Later in 2016, we got the Max Landis-run BBC America series. This series is set primarily in Seattle, Washington, but opens with Dirk waking up to a phone call and assuring the person on the other end that he's already on the way, which is a massive lie. But whatever. Here's the season-long mystery. Who killed Patrick Spring? We get to see the crime scene first. It's a mess as there are giant hammerhead shark bite marks in the rafters, bloody handprints everywhere, and a kitten, so let's unpack.
This is Todd Brodsman. Todd is having trouble paying his bills, and so his landlord smashes his car up. This means he has to take the bus to work. Todd works at the hotel that the crime scene was in, but he's late. Todd sadly drags himself over to the elevator, only to see another Todd yelling in the hallway before the elevator door closes. He also finds a slightly burnt lottery ticket.
Oh yeah, I forgot to ask how that fits in and everything, because I don't think I actually ever found out. Oh wait, no, it was because... No, I can't remember.
Dirk was telling Todd that if he became his assistant that he would receive payment, but probably Dirk wasn't going to be the one to pay him.
Does he actually catch it at all, or does he just still have it in season 2?
I think he cashes it right before season 1 ends.
The detectives go looking into the crime scene and talk to the crime scene investigation guys, having a little discussion about jurisdiction. The detectives are doing a missing persons case on Lydia Spring, Patrick Spring's daughter. Their names are Estevez and Zimmerfield, and they take notes of things like bite marks in the ceilings, the bodies being sent for autopsy, and that the only one who had the key card to the room was Todd. So they show him footage of a guy in a gorilla mask using. They ask him if he's seen anything weird, and he fumbles on his words because of the whole seeing himself thing. So that's cool. His boss asks him if he saw an animal in the room, because they said there were some paw prints. And then Todd asks if he means like a dog. His boss says no, and also that he's fired. The reason is because that key card was the only way into the room, and he lost it. Silly goose.
So Todd, right? Day sucks. He lost his car, his landlord wants the rent money right now, and he lost his job. To top all of that off, when he gets home, someone's breaking in through his window. Meet Dirk.
Dirk Gently in this series has a different physical look than most of the other depictions. In April 2020, Samuel Barnett talked about this in the podcast Soda and Telecast, saying that he doesn't match the description at all.
But, obviously, the biggest thing for me immediately was like, I do not match the physical description of Dirk Gently in the book. At all.
Dirk finds a toy on the ground, then announces that he lives in the apartment, will sleep on the couch, brought a kitten from the crime scene, and that Todd is his new assistant. Todd disagrees, to put it lightly.
Okay, these guys are Project Blackwing. Not to spoil things, but the guy with the binoculars is supposed to be the same guy in the US military clothing who got Dirk to predict 9/11 as a child. Okay, so his name is Riggins. Project Blackwing is a CIA operation designed to find people with unique abilities, to take them in for study and eventually weaponization if possible. Think SCP Foundation? The younger guy is Friedkin. He's the only person that the CIA allows Riggins to team up with because he's cheap and dumb. His gimmick is that he aims his gun and has a shot. For example, right now he shoots and it flies through Todd's apartment into the next floor, piercing a cult member through the head and saving Farrah Black's life. We'll get more into these characters later, but there's a lot to go through, so we can't slow down.
Todd's sister, Amanda, has a horrible condition known as pararibulitis, which means that she has hallucinations that feel completely real. She'll just look down at her hands and feel a knife is cutting them. It's horrible. Todd is trying to get money for her medicine, and since he just lost his job, he decides to call her and pay her a visit. This also means he can avoid his landlord.
Meanwhile, we get some more characters, because why not? Here we see Ken, a computer hacker guy, being forced to work for some more of those cult members. They get killed by this girl, Bart. Project Marzana, named after the angel of fate and death. Bart is amazing. Bart chases Ken and yells out that she'll kill Dirk Gently, only to realize he's not Dirk Gently. He's Ken. It's an easy enough mistake. They practically look like twins.
Back to Dirk. It's morning now, and he waves to Todd from his brand new car. Todd tries to blow him off, and Dirk offers to drive him to where he has to go. And with the landlord threatening him with a pipe, Todd has no choice but to accept the offer. During the drive, Dirk eats pizza and explains what being a holistic detective is, and almost hits Gordon Rimmer with the car. Yeah, that's Gordon. We'll get to him later.
Back to Bart. Bart exists to set up parallels between her and Dirk, as well as Ken and Todd. We have a lot of pairings and parallels throughout this first season, and it works really well. Dirk is, as we know, a holistic detective who understands that everything is connected on a fundamental level, however tangentially, and can find clues randomly that come together no matter what. This is what gets him into trouble, because he can come across as psychic when he doesn't mean to be. He's just amazing at deduction. It's like a superpower. Like Likewise, Bart calls herself a holistic assassin who believes that everything is connected on a fundamental level, however tangentially, and can find targets she knows she has to kill, and will kill them no matter what. These characters parallel each other, and their assistants counterpart each other perfectly. Todd has no reason to trust Dirk or understand what's happening, so he is skeptical of everything and questions Dirk's methods constantly. Ken sees what Bart can do and thinks she's insane, but comes to understand her much faster. The Bart scenes are also a lot more action-heavy, which keeps the pace of the show going faster. Bart is also functionally immortal, describing her as not dodging bullets, but the bullets dodging her.
Dirk and Todd go to Amanda's house and do some things like have that conversation that Dirk has to not dress like a detective. But if all detectives don't dress like detectives, how does he know what not dress like? And he asks why she stays at home if the pararibullitis affects her no matter where she goes. So staying at home doesn't actually help or anything. Todd gives her money for medication, but that's all his money. So now he's flat broke and unemployed. Todd tries to cheer her up by playing music, but she has a pararibullitis attack, so they leave. Todd explains that he used to have pararibullitis when he was in college, and his parents paid for medication, but it wiped their savings. Now that Amanda has it, her parents can't afford to help, so Todd pays for it. Problem is, he's unemployed and doesn't have a car. Dirk excitedly says that now that Todd is a part of their case, that everything will work out, and he'll receive payment, but not from Dirk.
So this is another point of contention between the 2016 series and the rest of the Dirk Gently stories. In the novel's 2010 series and the 2015 Interconnectedness of All Kings story, Dirk is presented as a con man who changes his name to get out of trouble. He has great deduction abilities, but tries to use them to make money, and it doesn't really work out. He has a secretary and a maid, but only because he keeps saying he'll pay their wages, but then never does, knowing that they'll continue working until he pays them. The idea that Max Landis presents in the 2016 TV series, that Dirk's assistants get paid through holistic methods and that the universe is aligning just right, is completely at odds with the con man depiction. This is sort of necessary though when translating a British series for America, as we have a much stronger sense of capitalism and impatience over here.
So Todd agrees to join in the case, not because he believes it, but because he doesn't have anything else to do. Then the Rowdy Three show up.
There are 4 of them! I'm wildly aware!
The Rowdy Three are sort of these psychic vampires, let's say, that harass Dirk and suck out his psychic energy, leaving him feeling woozy. It's heavily implied that the Rowdy Three are the same as the kids that sucked Dirk's voice out in the comic, but I don't know enough about psychic energy to know for sure.
The Rowdy Three leaves, stealing that squeaky toy and a picture of Amanda as they go, but all their noise gets the attention of Todd's landlord, who comes in with a gun. The landlord is about to shoot Todd when the microwave goes off, so he shoots it instead, and the bullet ricochets directly into his head, killing him. The gunshot alerts the FBI, CIA, and the missing persons detective, who had all been listening in for various reasons, and they run into each other in a Mexican standoff. Sort of like an Interconnectedness of All Kings, Dirk and Todd just kind of look at each other, and Todd figures he ain't getting his security deposit back anyways, so he may as well smash into their wall. Screw it, right? So crime scene investigators look through the apartment, Farrah falls asleep, and Todd is pulled into questioning. One of those cult members is looking for a kitten. Cops don't have it, so the cult guy shoots him with a crossbow. This is all pretty boilerplate, really.
So Todd, right? Day sucks. He's unemployed, homeless, someone gets shot, the police are questioning him, he has to deal with Dirk Gently. To top it all off, Todd reveals that his landlord was angry because Todd stole the money from him. See, he paid his rent in cash, then snuck around the back of the house, broke in, and took the cash back to pay for Amanda's medicine, hoping the landlord wouldn't notice. Todd sees himself as responsible for the landlord's death now, but Dirk says the way he did just seems practical. Dirk still wants him on the case, and Todd is not really having it.
I am not your Watson, asshole!
Todd leaves and decides to pick up a corgi on the street he saw, and decides to return it to its owner, only for that owner to be Gordon Rimmer. And inside his house is a very curious Lady of Spring, the missing person from earlier. Oh my goodness.
So that's pretty much the first episode. A whole lot of setup. We have Bart and Ken driving around on a murder spree hostage situation thing. Gordon Rimmer is a kidnapper, and the missing person people don't know that. The Rowdy Three are psychic vampires, and one of them has a crush on Amanda. Amanda still has pararibullitis. Farrah is still locked in her room trying to escape. Todd's homeless, but Dirk keeps telling him that everything will work out, and also that the lottery ticket Todd found is a winner.
Yeah, so Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, the 2016 series, is a bit more complex than the previous series, with a full season-long story arc that runs for about 8 episodes. I'm not going to go through everything that happens. He lied. And I encourage you to watch it for yourself, but it's important that I get the big plot points. We'll go character by character, I guess, starting with Farrah Black.
Farrah Black is Lydia Spring's bodyguard, and 2 days before the series started, Gordon kidnapped Lydia. Farrah was on a mission to find her and get her home safely when Gordon sicked his cult members on her. Farrah is running through the apartment complex looking for help, but Todd's too scared to open the door, so Farrah gets captured and locked in the apartment above Todd's. Don't worry about her though, Farrah Black is amazing and can get herself free. She meets up with Dirk and Todd later. Next up, Bart.
Bart is way more in tune with her holistic abilities, and she would kind of have to be in her line of work. To demonstrate the bullet dodging her thing, she plays Russian roulette in front of Ken by herself, and the gun jams whenever it's pointed at her. Bart also explains that whenever she sees someone, they're a target and they deserve to die, which Ken doesn't believe at first and tries to save people that Bart targets, only for them to end up being completely irredeemable anyway, and Bart kills them. Bart says the universe wants her to kill Dirk Gently, and at this point Ken is kind of convinced. Problem is, that's not quite the case for a whole variety of reasons, but that's kind of spoilers for later on, and I need to talk some plot points real quick.
Dirk and Todd sneak into Gordon's house. His garage is full of posters and memorabilia from an old musician who disappeared a few years back named Lux de Jour, and Dirk steals his dog while he's distracted on the phone talking about how he's the supreme soul. Also, Lydia is there, and she's acting like a dog, so Dirk and Todd escape with the corgi out the bathroom window, and Dirk immediately thinks the dog is Lydia Spring, and that the two must have swapped souls. Anyone going into the show blind might think, oh, he's crazy. But I mean, we're already this far through all the Dirk Gently stuff, so you already know by now that he's 100% correct. Gordon ends up calling Dirk because Dirk threw a bunch of business cards at him during the escape, and they set up a hostage exchange on top of the bridge.
Okay, so here's the thing. This scene is great.
Why did you attack us?
We didn't! How do you know who we are?
We don't. Where's the kitten?
What kitten? Who's that woman?
You don't know her?
Do you?
Why did you burn my house down?
I burnt your house down? Where's Lydia?
She's not here. Bring me the dog.
Why do you want it?
Why did you take it?
We don't know!
Why did you kill Patrick Spring?
We didn't! Did you?
Dirk, Todd, and Gordon have no idea what's going on. Anyway, this isn't super important to the plot of the show, or the overall character story or whatever, but this is the scene where Samuel Barnett dislocated his shoulder.
What's the weirdest thing that's happened on the set?
I dislocated my shoulder. I don't know how weird that was. It was painful.
It was weird
to hear about via email. I wasn't there then. Do you remember that? Getting that email? Sam fell. Seems okay. No, Sam actually dead. Sam alive but sad. Everything fine. Everything not fine. Sam in hospital. Just getting these emails. And I'm like in my apartment in Vancouver, like, at like 1 a.m.
I think one of my favorite things is we all did an escape room together when we first got there and didn't get out despite being on a detective show.
How's that for pathetic?
Max writes a detective show.
It's not a detective show. The clues don't make sense.
Anyway, the girl is Farrah Black, so I guess she didn't escape, but the dog definitely was Lydia, and Todd threw her into a river.
Okay, so Lux de Jour was originally in charge of this cult called the Men of the Machine, but he was taking it over from the original leaders, so they punished him by putting his soul into Gordon Rimmer's body. So that's his whole deal and why Lux de Jour went missing. The cult is a group of hippies who found a machine which just sort of appeared in front of them, and they used it to swap souls with each other, and they've been kidnapping high-status people and using their bodies to infiltrate higher-status social groups. For example, the chief of police is one of the cult members and works for Gordon. Gordon needs the corgi back because he put Lydia Springs' soul into it and needs to switch them back. That's his whole deal right now. So Amanda, right? Amanda took Dirk's advice and tried to get to the grocery store by herself, and everything's fine until she catches on fire and starts screaming. But luckily, the Rowdy Three were stalking her, and they can just eat her paraurbulitis attacks, which is pretty convenient for everyone involved. When they do this, it gives her psychic visions of upcoming episodes, which is even more convenient. That's basically her whole story arc right now. She hangs out with the Rowdy Three, and they help her with her condition.
Farrah takes Dirk and Todd over to Edgar Spring's house. Edgar was Patrick's dad, I guess, and they find some clues that don't make sense.
The clues don't make sense!
Patrick Spring had a will and left Todd a map, only on the condition Dirk is with him, which seems weird, but okay. Farrah finds a secret room in the house built by Zachariah Webb, who built the house, and we'll get more into that guy later.
Okay, so next up is episode 4, the Spooky Trap Room episode that was in all the trailers.
You are now a vital part of the investigation.
It is connected.
All new, Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, Saturdays at 9.
We have one of those rooms where the spiked walls close in on you, but instead of spikes, they're light bulbs. We have a room with an electric ghost rhino named Pepe, and Dirk and Todd have to hold hands to make the rhino touch its horn. We have a room that's just a bunch of TV screens with random pictures, and Dirk solves that one by pressing girl and dog, and then kitten with shark. Now the TV screens show another map.
The cult members took over an FBI guy who tries to question Estevez and Zimmerfield about the corgi, which is a totally normal sentence I say every day. Gordon is sitting on a girl at a bar. The show is great. There's a fire at the underground trap room, but luckily Amanda has new spoiler powers and she knows how to turn the TVs back on. Gordon takes the girl back to an abandoned animal transfer building near a zoo and kills her to try to get his cult members to take him more seriously. Animal transfer, I get it. Also, the cult members are super dumb because they keep getting swapped with animals, and so they have only a tenuous grasp on human mindsets now.
So the map that Dirk and Todd found is basically a short filler arc for the show. It leads Dirk and Todd all over the place to take up random holes and find pieces of the machine, which they start putting together, and it's like, they could have just had the machine be hidden in the trap room, but whatever. A couple of important things here. Todd gets a new shirt, which he was wearing when he saw himself in the first episode. Then those cult guys show up to try and steal Dirk's kitten that he stole from them, I think. Can I just say...
What?
I was lost before we started reading, but now I'm just... I feel like I'm having a stroke with everything that gets read.
The kitten suddenly turns into a flying electric hammerhead shark, killing the cult members. It was around this point when I was watching the show with some friends that one of them said no and left. Honestly though, this is a pretty big clue to the mystery for the season, and it makes perfect sense. It doesn't make perfect sense. It doesn't make perfect sense. It doesn't. While this is happening, Ken seems to be falling in love with Bart and takes her to a hotel, gets her cleaned up, and takes her out for Chinese food. They're a couple now decided. Great. Cool.
Okay, so it's at this point Todd breaks down and admits that he never actually had periurbiculitis and that he lied about it so his parents would give him money and he wouldn't need to get a job. But now that Amanda really has it, their parents are out of money and Todd's been paying for the medication out of guilt. Todd's kind of an asshole, but Dirk tells him that he can't just call himself an asshole and pretend like that's an excuse. If you want to be a good person, you have to make up for your past mistakes, which is actually a theme for this whole season. Every main character made mistakes in the past and it haunts their present.
Bart and Ken meet up with Dirk and Todd, so let's cover that real quick. Bart tries to kill Dirk. They realize they were both Project Blackwing subjects.
Everything is connected!
Bart didn't know who Dirk was, just that she wanted to kill him.
Slight spoilers for the next part, but the reason Bart thought she had to kill Dirk Gently was because of Sally Mills.
See, the universe won't allow Bart to kill Dirk, because obviously Dirk needs to stay alive in order to send that time machine back to Zachariah Webb with a note. So the universe punishes Bart by taking away her plot armor, allowing Pharaoh to shoot her in the leg. This is the first time Bart ever felt pain, but she's freaking out and wants to give up, because she's never like clipped her nails too close. And then it
We've
hurts.
seen, she didn't even know what a shower was.
Right, so anyway, those missing person guys, the cult members killed Zimmerfield, and Estevez ends up getting fired by the chief of police, who is a cult member, so that makes sense. He drinks to cope with it, but also still has the corgi and realizes that she's Lydia Spring. He's a pretty good detective. Todd admits to Amanda he never had periurbiculitis, and guess what? That's fucked up, so she's crying and won't ever forgive him for that. That missing person guy shows up with the dog. He's drunk. Amanda's having a periurbiculitis attack. The corgi is confused. Rowdy 3 shows up to help Amanda. The cult shows up to get the dog. Everything's connected and falling apart. And Amanda decides that Rowdy 3 is her new brother now or something. Todd tries to give Amanda that winning lottery ticket to fix things, but she rips it up and gets into the Rowdy 3's van. Also, the cult kidnaps Todd.
Dirk and Farah call the FBI guy to get backup because there's this serial killing cult that keeps attacking people. But the FBI guy is part of the cult, so that kind of backfires. He sees the Zachariah Webb machine that Dirk and Todd put together and kidnaps the two of them. So Gordon has Dirk and Todd down on their knees going full Supreme Soul mode, and it's finally time for his big speech.
Sorry, but what is this video about?
It's about Dirk Gently.
Anyway, Dirk kind of shrugs all this off, but then solves the case. It has to do with time travel, obvious. So that machine the cult guys had, and the machine that Dirk and Todd put together, are two halves of a time machine. Here's how the stuff went down.
Zachariah Webb was an 1880s mad scientist guy who built machines. He tried to make a time machine, but instead of sending animals through time, it rips their souls out and makes weird electrical ghosts. He tries to fix it, but before he can, it vanishes and is replaced by a new machine with a note from Dirk Gently. The machine actually ends up in 1968, and it's what the hippie group used to become the cult, because they realize they can swap souls with it. The leader of this cult is named Jake Rainey, but he swaps around a lot. Zachariah jumps to 1968 with the time machine that Dirk sent back to the past and tries to confront them, but there's too many of them. Zachariah takes the other half of the machine, the half that makes it into a time machine, and patents that into an internal energy source, making himself rich. He adopts a new persona as Edgar Spring and starts a war with the cult. During this, he falls in love with a woman and has a daughter, and the cult kills his wife, so he decides he wants to skip all the way to the end and kill the entire cult.
So, Dirk and Todd travel back in time to 1 week in the past with the completed time machine and watch as Gordon swaps Lydia and the Corgi's soul. I should probably mention that the Corgi's name is Rapunzel, and there's some metaphorical significance in that because while the Corgi's soul is in Lydia's body, Gordon refers to her with the dog's name, essentially meaning that he's keeping a woman hostage and calling her Rapunzel. It's sort of like how the 2010 series, the character Professor Jericho's name had symbolic importance to the plot, except a more obvious example, so I forgot to talk about it.
Jake Rainey, the cult's true leader, shows up in the body of a young woman and wants to punish Gordon again for going behind his or her back to do things like kidnapping rich girls and putting their souls in dogs. Gordon's plan is to use Lydia as leverage to get unlimited energy machine from Patrick Spring, who is waiting at the hotel right now. But Rainey doesn't care. She suggests killing the dog, and Gordon flips out and takes the soul swapping machine and runs off with it, so they both have leverage. He takes Rapunzel and Lydia's body with him too.
It's at this point that Edgar Spring shows up in a full Kamen Rider Iron Man outfit and starts shooting cult members left and right. He can do a fully charged EMP blast which knocks their souls out of their bodies. He's done playing, and he wants to avenge his wife's death. He finds Rainey and asks very loudly if he is speaking with the body that houses the soul of Jake Rainey, and when she says yes, he kills her.
Honestly, we've gotten so far in this Dirk Gently stuff that when someone shows up in a time-traveling Kamen Rider outfit, I'm not even surprised anymore.
Gordon and his remaining cult members reconvene outside the hotel, and Gordon shows off his secret plan, which is that a kitten that has a hammerhead shark soul in it. He calls it a weaponized soul and hands it to one of the dumbass cult guys to use in case things go wrong, and then they go up to the hotel room to meet with Patrick Spring.
Todd and Dirk explain the situation to Edgar Spring, and Edgar Spring tells Dirk that he got a message from Dirk in the 1800s. Todd realizes that seeing himself at the hotel in the first episode, as well as that guy in the gorilla mask, that they need to go to the hotel right now. They end up stealing a truck, and Todd explains the whole plot of the show to Dirk, which is pretty funny. Also, Todd finds that lottery ticket in the truck, but it's brand new and not burnt or torn up.
And now we're back to the first episode. Todd steals the master key out of his own locker, moments before his past self could take it, which is why he lost it. He gives the key to Dirk, who uses it to unlock the door to the room before the murder happens.
We're finally at the murder mystery. Who killed Patrick Spring? Gordon is trying to get Patrick to take Lydia, but Patrick realizes it's not his daughter's soul in there. Edgar shows up and realizes that he is Patrick Spring. So shocked by this revelation, he gets frustrated and shoots one of the cult members when they move too fast, and he was the one holding the kitten shark, which goes off, killing most of them and causing those electric hammerhead shark bites in the ceiling.
Dirk, Todd, and Edgar Spring run away to try to regroup, and Gordon chases after them. That's when they run into past Dirk, and present Dirk tries to explain the plot, points at Todd and says he's his best friend, and tells him 3 questions, 1 answer, which were arc words throughout the season, and tells him to go to the crime scene to get the kitten because Dirk and Todd forgot it. Past Dirk is confused as hell, but is like, I'm going to do something, and is off. Todd realizes that Dirk already knew what was going on this whole time and could have told him about it, but chose not to. So he yells at him for it, only to realize that this was the argument his past self saw in the elevator. I'm so fucking lost.
This wraps up most things pretty well, except for a few more bits. Edgar Spring realizes he didn't get to see Lydia grow up because he was so obsessed with getting revenge. So he travels back in time and changes his name to Patrick Spring, and even hires a bodyguard for her to try to make sure she won't be in danger. danger. That bodyguard was Farrah Black. Dirk realizes he has to send the time machine back in time with a note in order to make everything logically make sense. But Todd is sick of Dirk's crap, and they just wind up back in the present a little after when they originally left.
One of these cult member guys shoots Dirk with a crossbow, and Farrah shows up to try to help. But Estevez wants to know what happened since he kicked the crap out of Gordon and found Lydia's body. So he locks Dirk and friends in animal cages until they explain the plot.
I want answers. God! Okay, so 100 years ago.
All right, I'm gonna need you to shut up with that shit right now.
Okay, so now that everyone's caught up, I'm not caught up, dude. I didn't even see that episode.
And you're the one who watched it.
Like, I can't.
Okay, so now that everyone's caught up, everyone has to meet at the time machine terminal in order to fix everything. Gordon realizes that they still have to put Lydia and the dog's souls in the right spot, so he gets all of his cult members, storms into the police station, and takes all of their guns, and he even puts on war paint. Dirk's losing blood from that crossbow bolt, but they end up putting Lydia Spring's soul back into her body. Yay.
So the cult guys are in riot gear and the Rowdy Three shows up and they start fighting. Gordon just walks directly past them into the house to get his dog back, but he has a gun and some armed cult members on his side, so Farrah and Estevez hold them off. Lydia wants to just destroy the time machine once and for all, but Todd and Dirk realize that this would cause a time paradox, so Dirk starts writing a note for Zachariah Webb. When some of those cult members show up, they shoot Dirk again. Lydia freaks out and decides to go back to her plan of breaking it, but the cult member is like, yeah? Then what would you do? Because he's a low-level cult member, so he's already in the highest body he can get, so like, he don't care. Then Bart shows up and kills them both.
Yo.
Bart aims her gun at Dirk, and Ken stops her and says that this machine is what the cult guys hired him to fix back in the first episode, so he starts working on it, now believing in destiny and the universe.
I really think that just not even watching the show, but reading this script is causing me to lose my grip on reality.
What do you think writing it did?
Farrah and Estevez end up killing Gordon Rimmer. Ken fixes the time machine, and Bart says she still has one bullet left and aims her gun at Dirk. She hesitates, though, and swings her arm the other way and fires, killing the last cult member who just happened to be standing in the doorway now. She says, okay, bye Dirk, and she and Ken leave. Dirk, Todd, and Lydia send the machine back in time, and Dirk passes out.
We have sort of a happy ending for the season. Dirk is in the hospital and has a dream about Riggins telling Dirk that he's proud of him. But that's a dream, and no one is ever proud of Dirk, except me. I'm proud of Dirk. Lydia thanks Farrah for her help with everything and gives her $4 million as a parting gift before moving to Europe in case there are more cult guys after her. Todd picks Dirk up at the hospital and gives him his jacket back, and they're friends again. Yay! They meet up with Farrah to start a holistic detective agency and discuss the plans over breakfast, and everyone lived happily ever after. The end.
Except they totally didn't, because Friedkin killed Riggins, took over the Project Blackwing, and is taking a more aggressive approach. He kills Estevez, torches the police precinct, and sends Blackwing agents to apprehend Dirk, Bart, and the Rowdy Three. The Rowdy Three send one of their team off with Amanda to keep her safe. Bart is surrounded by tanks and is only armed with a rock, and Dirk kind of just walks into Friedkin's path and gets sad. Amanda calls Todd to ask for help, but Todd suddenly gets a pararabiolitis attack for the first time and collapses on the ground. Bad ending. Five Nights at Freddy's reference.
Alright, at least it's not going to get any more complicated than that plot, right?
Oh man. I don't believe that. I don't believe in coincidence.